Awesome. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Standing Committee on City Finance and Services meeting of Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. This meeting is being convened in person and by electronic means as authorized under Part 14 of the Procedure Bylaw, City of Vancouver's electronic meeting. As such, committee members and the public may participate in person or by electronic means. I guess we don't have anyone online, clerk, right? Oh, we do. Oh, Councilor Fry, okay. Okay, if a committee member attending by electronic means lost the connection during the voting process, team members are available to get you back online quickly while the voting process is suspended. The team members' contact information has been circulated to you. Video of committee member speaking, presentation, and vote results will be projected on live stream when available. Committee members are reminded that, in accordance with Section 14.13 of the Procedure Bylaw, member must enable their video to confirm quorum. In case of an emergency where we need to evacuate the building, I would like to direct your attention to the exits. There are two exits beyond the glass door and to the left. If the glass doors are obstructed, please direct your attention to the four exits in this council chamber. Please use stairs, do not use elevator. If you require accessibility assistance, please remain at your location and wait for the security staff member to get you to a safe location. I would also highlight that there is a defibrillator located at the end of hallway outside of this council chamber. We acknowledge that we are on the unceded homelands of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. We thank them for having care for this land and look forward to working with them in partnership as we continue to build this great city together. I also want to take a moment to recognize the immense contributions of the City of Vancouver's team members who work hard every single day to make our city an incredible place to live, work, and play. Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Councillor Zhou is in the chair. Mayor Sim. Councillor Kirby-Young. Councillor Dominato. Councillor Bly.
Present.
Councillor Fry.
Present.
Councillor Clausen. Councillor Montague.
Present.
And Councillor Meissner. The meeting has quorum, Chair Zhou.
Thank you, Clerk. So this is our plan for the day. Any comments on agenda items can be sent to council using web form on City's website. The link to that form will be posted on X at OneCityClerk. I also want to note City of Vancouver's long-standing committee to equity, diversity, and inclusion, including utmost respect for all genders. I remind one committee that when addressing speakers and the city team members, we will avoid using gender honorifics. We will instead refer to the person by first and last name, role, or title. Today, we have one administrative item and also 5 reports and 2 council members' motion. The plan for the day is we break at noon for lunch and return at 1 p.m. to continue to deal with the remainder of the agenda. If the committee does not complete the business by 2:45 p.m., the committee will recess for in-camera and reconvene at 4:30 p.m. to continue the business. If needed, the committee will recess at 5 p.m. for a dinner break and reconvene at 6 p.m. to complete the agenda. If we do not complete all the items on the agenda today, the clerk will let us know of the most convenient reconvene date and the time for later today. All right, so now the committee will now consider matters adopted on consent. We have report 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the consent agenda for committee's consideration. The committee may adopt recommendations for reports 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on consent. Does any member want to hold any items for debate or question to team members? All right, so I haven't seen anyone. So I think we have report 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, before that, so before we consider the consent agenda, if anyone believes they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to declare it. Does anyone have a conflict of interest to declare? Okay, Mayor Sim. So let me just turn okay, please go ahead.
Just on report 4, the approval of 2025-26 BIA budgets. We do have, our family has a location on Commercial Drive, so just don't know if we just carve out the Commercial Drive BIA out of that report or the whole report, just checking on it now.
Okay, thanks. It's noted. I think, Claire, we can just separate that item, right? Okay, thank you. Yeah, noted, Mayor. So we're gonna do that in the declare. Okay. Oh, Councilor Carbian, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I have a point of procedure. I'm looking at the report for the BIA budget, and I'm just looking for clarity on how that would be severed, because the recommendation is a collective approval of all 22 BIA budgets in an aggregate amount. It's not broken out by BIA, individual BIA.
Okay, so we need to sever that, Clerk.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The entire item 4 would have to be severed and voted on separately if the mayor would like to declare a conflict. Otherwise, I think the procedure that we do is you could put it through on consent and we mark the mayor ineligible to vote or declared conflict for item number 4 in its entirety.
Okay, are you okay with that, Mayor Sim? Okay, thank you, Mayor. All right, so now we have report 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the consent approval, except Mayor Sim declared conflict of interest on report number 4. Would someone like to move adoption of recommendations before committee contained in this report? It's moved by Councilor Dominado, seconded by Councilor Claassen. Thank you. All those in favor say yea. Opposed say nay. All right, so this following item has been approved on consent. Number 1, 2025 property taxation, pilot development, potential relief program, and targeted land assessment averaging. Number 2, contract awards for supply and delivery of personal protective equipment. Number 3, 2024 Q4 quarterly capital budget adjustment and closeouts. Number 4, approval of 2025 to 2026 business improvement area BIA budgets. Number 5, disaster resilience and innovation funding program grant application. Thank you, everyone. All right, so that completes all 5 items on the agenda. So now we're gonna move to the members' motion. The next item is motion 1, deferring the collection of development cost levies, DCL, and related development charge to support new housing and job supply. And it is moved and introduced by Councilor Bly. All right, before we begin this item, if anyone believes they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to declare. Does anyone has a conflict of interest to disclose? Councilor Carbian, I think that's left over, right? Okay, thank you. All right, so seeing none, Councilor Bly, you have 2 minutes to introduce your motion. Please go ahead.
Thanks very much, Chair. Happy to introduce this motion today. And I see we're moving through our meeting very quickly, so I won't take any additional time than what's necessary. You know, we have heard time and time again that productive policy that the council can bring forward to enable more housing starts is what's needed in a time of economic uncertainty, only sort of compounded with what we see happening south of the border and the uncertainty that that's creating in every sector, including the development sector. So the goal with this motion is to really bring into the public domain a direction to staff to move towards deferring the collection of development cost levies, DCLs and DCCs related to development charges to support new housing and job supply is the title of the motion. And what this is going to do is, as I say, in an uncertain real estate market, it really does allow the city to improve cash flow for builders who, what we're seeing is a number of rezoning approvals happening here at this council, but housing starts ultimately are way down. And so what we need to see are actual shovels in the ground and unlocking the ability for builders to be able to access the construction financing and really just achieve the bare minimum in their pro formas in order to be able to build the much needed units of housing that we need in our city. A slowdown in this area will take years to catch up on if we don't make this move. And we may hear from folks who sort of suggest that this is happening. I really do appreciate that is, but this needs to be a conversation that's happening in a public meeting with clear direction to staff from this council that this is a priority of this council to improve the conditions by which we ask our builders to achieve what's required in terms of new units of housing in a housing crisis. And I'll just note that it's been good to see other jurisdictions as of late, most recently, actually, the city of Delta also bring forward something similar. And we know that this is a real challenge in terms of our regional approach with Metro Vancouver tackling some of the same balancing issues when it comes to DCCs and how they're charged out and when they are remitted. So hopefully this will open up some of that dialogue. And the last thing I'll say, that the reason I brought this forward is around the federal government's push to implore municipalities to build more housing by waiving DCCs. And while that's not a tenable approach entirely, this does show a flexibility in negotiation and some of the very critical funding we require in terms of infrastructure that would be needed to build this housing is locked in a bit of a freeze right now that the federal government is looking for municipal governments to show some ability to be flexible. And so this offers that flexibility. And so I'm very happy to bring it forward. And it should just be a quick debate, I suspect, but all the more important that we provide this direction now to staff. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Bly. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Dominado. We will now hear from the registered speaker. Public speakers should state whether they are in support or oppose this motion and may only speak once. I will also ask speakers if they are the residents of Vancouver, if it is not noted on the speakers list. The first registered speaker is Evan Aligrito. Is Evan here on the line?
I'm here.
Hi, Evan. So before you start, I have to ask you if you are a resident of Vancouver.
I'm not.
Okay.
But I work for Intracorp and an active developer in Vancouver.
Okay, please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, everyone. I think you know me. I'm Evan Allegretto of Intracorp, obviously here to support it. The point why I'm calling today is, while this is a great move, this is just, it's a small component of the pro forma, and the magnitude that is needed to make performance work right now is so large. It's the worst I've ever seen it in my career. So there's not just we need this and 20 other small movements. We need a major change to make numbers work. While I know there's approvals happening and public enactments happening, but we are not able to bring projects to construction start. The only projects that are able to go to construction start right now are projects that are typically, like I would say, low cost bases, like wood frame, and that have federal government support, the ACLP or MLI. But since the end of 2024, MLI is now effectively useless, and the money with ACLP is going away. So the tools that have been able to make projects work are going away. And so the only thing, there needs to be a major move by staff and council to make projects work. And, I think about 10 years ago, staff brought a great policy to council called STIR, Short-Term Incentives for Rental. And I challenged council to go back and have staff to come up with some major moves. And I've been working with staff, and I've been trying. The only thing that I can think of, if council wants to continue to charge DCCs taxation and fees, the way that, like the funding mechanisms for growth is to put a temporary, and I stress temporary, because you don't want to stop, I know the importance of politics and, you don't want, landowners to benefit. A temporary reduction in social housing and affordable housing if projects can get to construction start within the next 12 to 18 months. That is the only tool I think can happen. And, we're seeing this in Toronto. Cities are doing it. And, call it Toronto's 12 months ahead of us. I'll call it the stress that's going through the market there. And so I don't know how much time I am, but, I obviously support the DCC deferral. But I challenge council and staff to come up with that big change, temporary change that can really get housing built so that in the future we are not dealing with more supply issues. We need to continue to build on high times and low times, and right now it's a really low time. We need to find tools to keep us getting to construction start. So that's all I have to add.
Okay, thank you, Evan.
Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you so much. The second speaker has withdrawn. The third speaker is John. Is John on the line?
I'm just checking. I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Okay, thanks, Clerk. So now it concludes our speakers list. Thank you, everyone, for speaking to the Standing Committee on City Finance and Services. Committee members, is there any discussion? I saw Councillor Meisner. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks to Councillor Bly for bringing this forward. I just had a question through you to staff, if I may.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I understand there's been a recent presentation by our GM of Planning, Josh White, to UDI, stating that staff are already working on this and examining DCC recommendations. I'm just hoping the city manager could shed some light on that work, because it's my understanding that this is already underway and forthcoming later this spring.
Thanks. So yes, as Josh White did convey, this is staff are looking at a whole range of potential interventions to address the challenges in the market right now. We do recognize the economics that the industry is facing in getting construction started. This is one, the notion of some change or variation in the timing of DCL payments is one of the matters that staff are looking at. There's a whole range of like I say, measures there. So this is one. We are in discussion as well with Metro because we collect DCCs for Metro and TransLink as well. And there's been some discussion with the province. So it is work that's underway. We would be, of course, these are significant issues that would be coming back to council, but I can certainly confirm that it's work that we're looking at right now.
Okay, thanks for confirming that. And that work is coming back to council in Q2 already?
Yes, that's our expectation. That's what we're working
towards. Okay. Thanks very much for that confirmation. Just one more question for you. In the motion, the member motion, it says development viability review. Is that a part of this work that's happening?
It is. That's kind of the label that we've applied to all of these different things that we're looking at to support, I say, the industry and getting their projects to start.
Okay. And just one more question, if I may, sorry. Is the industry aware that this work is happening? Apart from the UDI speech by Josh White, has there been outreach to developers? They're aware that this is happening?
So that was, I think, there has been discussion with UDI. Certainly they're aware. Josh did that public presentation. There have been some other developers that have contacted us directly on this, some of the developers you've heard from as well. So there has been communication through a number of different channels.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Kirby-Yung, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. This is a really important discussion. This council is fully committed to delivering and enabling new housing. And certainly we heard from the one speaker in the industry that council needs to be bold. And I don't think anybody can suggest that this council has not been bold or is not prepared to do that. I will note, and I was going to say the same to Councillor Meisner, I also attended the UDI luncheon on February 20th. And there was our new Director of Planning, I think, really provided a very strong framework, an overview around what development looks like and how we're going to be enabling and locking it up, from permitting changes through to consideration of deferral programs to floor plate sizes, and went through a number of initiatives that the planning department are sort of deeply mired in terms of moving that forward. If you want to move us to an amendment queue, Chair, but I have a referral motion that I have sent in to the clerks.
Just give us one
I'll just
second.
let you switch queues and then I'll speak to that.
Amendment queue, please go ahead. Yeah, please add yourself there.
Yeah, 1 sec. Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I think, it was mentioned when the motion was introduced, this needs to be in the public realm. I think it's very much in the public realm. It's a live conversation. As was mentioned, it was publicly stated that staff are working on this at the UDI lunch February 20th. The work is slated to come back to council. I know it could take till May or June, but I do know in conversations with our director of planning that staff certainly feel the urgency around this and around not having housing get sort of stymied and held up because we are not responding to the economic conditions. And so it's coming forward very shortly. I think that if I'm to take a very objective lens, housing is our number one priority. There's no dispute about that, and we need to do everything we can to open it up. We also have an incredible critical infrastructure and community amenity gap in delivery, and every day that we defer receiving a DCL dollar or CAC dollar means that it is more expensive for us as a city to also deliver that. And so the intention here, I think, is to create that cash flow for developers. So the shovels hit the ground, so to speak, as was referenced, and those projects move forward. But we also need to be cognizant of a number of other considerations, such as the impact on the City of Vancouver's cash flow, the impact on the City of Vancouver's capital plan. And I think that there's also broader considerations that can unlock, in addition to DCL deferral, things like the STIR short-term incentive for rental housing program that has ceased. We had the MERT program that had a specific number of projects for pilots that has ceased. So I think that there's a number of levers working together. I don't want to be prescriptive at this point. There's a lot of good information in the motion that I know staff are looking at considering. I've added some additional considerations into the referral motion to really strike that balance between what do we need to do to respond to the conditions and ensure housing keeps flowing, and make sure that we're not creating another issue in terms of our community amenities that create that livability in communities and we need to ensure are there. And also to look at options. Is it full deferral? Is it a graduated payment process and timeline? What does that look like? So there's and then of course a reference to the all-important volatile environment in which we find ourselves with tariffs. So the referral motion is on the screen, and it directs it to go back to staff with these other considerations. And I think that we can have that good public debate, and council can give more definitive direction when we actually hear from staff on the analysis and the work that they are doing. And I appreciate the fact that they've really listened to industry and have already proactively started to undertake that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. We need a seconder for this, second by Councillor Meisner. Councillor Clausen, please go ahead.
Thanks very much, Chair. Yeah, no, it's a great conversation to be having right now. I certainly know, and just hearing from Evan earlier on, some of the pressures that are being out there, and I think that it's important that the industry does take time to communicate with the public at large. It's one thing to have a direct conversation with city staff or council here, but we really do need to include others in the community. We do get a lot of pushback sometimes around the scale and scope of development that are happening in the city, but by the same token, it's really important that we address that housing demand. I was actually listening to an interview this morning with Ezra Klein from the New York Times, and he had some really thoughtful comments. He's talking about how over time, we've really pushed down the supply of housing and community infrastructure. And to Councillor Kirby-Young's point, it's those community centers, it's those water parks, it's the seawalls, it's all the things that really make life quality of life much more enjoyable in the city. And paying for those things are directly linked to the level of development here, as we often use the term growth pays for growth. And then I very much like this referral motion because it not only states that this work is underway, and I know that many of us have been in conversations with the Director of Planning and other people, and some of us are directors at Metro Vancouver and aware of the discussion around how we're going to address the DCL question. It does underline the fact that it's the environment that we're in, the political environment, the geopolitical environment around tariffs and supply chain and costs are going to be absolutely huge. And so I think this referral motion does a great job of actually underlining that and making sure it's very clear to both the community, for all of us that are very interested in how we grow and maintain our economy here in the region, that we are really keeping that conversation alive and reminding our staff and our community that we really need to get elbows up, as they say, and work very hard to try and make sure we build the housing. And so I would like to continue to support our staff and signal to our Director of Planning and his team that we really support this work and look forward to it coming back in the coming weeks. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Dominado, please go ahead.
Through you, I had a question, a point of information to staff. Just noting that. Thank you. Just noting the motion and the motion indicates report back Q2 2025. The referral suggests May. Is there any way to expedite that report back for April?
Thanks for the question. At this stage, I don't expect that would be reasonable. This is an extremely complicated piece of work. And we are certainly aware of the conditions that the industry is facing right now. So I know the team is working as hard as they can to get back to council. In order to provide the level of analysis that I think council will need to make a decision on this is probably the fastest timeline we can reasonably do.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Bly, please go ahead.
Thanks very much, Chair. Well, I won't be supporting the referral, and the reason I won't be supporting the referral is this motion is an indication of some level of urgency from this council that we're taking this situation seriously. I'm not sure if people realize how much 3 to 4 months can really impact a project's viability. Certainly a project that includes any non-market housing. So if there is anybody listening online, and we have letters from UDI and GVBOT, Greater Vancouver Board of Trade, numerous developers who, I won't speculate, for one reason or another, were perhaps discouraged to call in today because there was assurances that this was going to pass, to refer it off and
Chair, I have a point of procedure. I believe the procedure bylaw 8.6 or 7 suggests that councillors refrain from casting aspersion on the motives of other councillors in the chamber.
I can take that back. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
So I just want to touch on the fact that with all of the conditions that we're facing, this idea of elbows up, the Team Canada approach, the urgency by which these stakeholders gathered task force around tables, responding to the imminent economic downturn we're facing as a result of a trade war in an already volatile economic environment when it comes to development, builders, and really at the end of the day, outcomes in terms of housing units. This is politics instead of progress, and I absolutely will not support it.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Meisner, please go ahead. Oops.
Thanks, Chair. I would disagree with the previous comments. I don't think there's any doubt around this chamber and Vancouverites that, this council has been acting with a sense of urgency to address the housing crisis. We have streamlined many processes. We've done a citywide design guidelines review to cut down on some of those guidelines that were slowing down housing development. We've cut waiting times for things like sprinkler permits. We've implemented 3331. We're making great progress there in speeding up housing delivery. And we really need to balance, to Councillor Kirby-Young's point, the need to get housing starts moving for the housing that Vancouverites so desperately need, with the need for the community amenities that Vancouverites so desperately need. So that's two things that we have to balance here, and we already have this work underway. A very fulsome report is forthcoming in May. We heard from the city manager that that is probably the fastest that they're going to be able to bring that report forward. And I know that this council will act in the best interests of Vancouverites and the best interests of Vancouverites who are facing a housing crisis and need their government to unstick the wheels to get things moving. So I am confident in this referral motion, and I'll be supporting it.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Black, please go ahead again.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to touch on one more point that I forgot to mention a couple minutes ago. And, you know, while I can appreciate even just hearing Councillor Meisner's sort of recap of more of the high-level actions, those do not change the economic viability of projects with the urgency that's required. And we hear from groups, developers, non-market housing developers who are asking for signals, indications, letters of what's forthcoming that they can quite literally take to their lenders, to their banks that allow them to start to build projects today. So again, all I'm saying is that it is right now March 12th. I'm not willing to wait until May 15th or June 15th. And we know we've got a very busy planning team that are putting this off. And this was not developed as a motion in a vacuum. It was developed with the head of planning, Josh White, early in February, due to just our process of delays of bringing motions forward every 2 weeks, or what have you, and cutoffs and everything that happened in the past month. This is when this motion's on deck. But this motion has been a very clear and desired direction from this council, from staff, to say, let's get this conversation out in the open now on this particular piece, because it is the difference between a project viability or not. And so I'm not willing to wait 8 weeks, because when you run a private business, when you are running pro formas through banks at a time when there's such a level of uncertainty, who knows what's going to be happening in 2 months? That's the difference between shovels in the ground today or not. So a referral of this motion, I'll say it again, is politics in the way of progress.
Thank you. Councillor Carpenter, you have floor.
Yeah, thanks. I'm trying to stay just grounded in the actual substance of what we're discussing here, because I think that is what's really important. But I will say, just keeping it real, there's a conversation there about urgency and not willing to wait until May 15th. I see no timeline in the motion or the resolution as proposed. There is no timeline or urgency here that suggests that this is urgent and must come back. And we have heard that their staff are targeting for May. They're going to do their best, might be a bit later. It's a substantive piece of work. I know that they feel the urgency around that, and they have said they cannot do it before. So just to, be clear and pragmatic about it. But I do want to talk and build a little bit on what Councillor Meisner was talking about in a lot of the things that actually do make that difference. It's not just DCLs that make the difference around the economic viability. It is things like the 331 permitting improvements that move things faster, that reduce that amount of time that developers have to carry financing, the amount of months. Where for those of us that were at a public hearing last night, we made some additional improvements on the 331 permitting. And removed a number of considerations there. Recently, we revisited the Broadway plan and looked at the towers per block to better open up more sites and more opportunities. We looked at things like view cones and modernizing those, a motion brought forward by Councillor Meisner that was not fully not supported by the councillors in this chamber, including the councillor who's bringing this motion forward. So I think same thing where we've had a couple of reports on CAC deferrals for specific projects that were also not unanimously supported, where there were particular projects that were having challenges and needed to be opened up and unlocked. And, I think a number of councillors were proud to support that, or again, those were not unanimous decisions. I'm reminded looking at things like floor plate relaxation, there's more work coming forward, but our staff have looked at sites as those have come up. There was one in the West End off of Thurlow. It was a rental site. Or it ended up being a rental site, I should say. It wasn't originally planned that way. Due to the economic conditions, it changed hands and due to economic difficulties by The owner, the new owner inherited it. They didn't think that they could move forward, the proponent who divested of the site. And the new proponent, by working with our staff and floor plate relaxation, was able to turn that into rental housing, which was more needed tenure in the city, and actually make that project viable on a site. So I think that there's a number of examples in terms of
Sorry,
intersections
Councillor,
working
you are out
together.
of time.
Thank you. There's so much to talk about on this topic, but thanks. I appreciate it,
You're
Chair.
out of time. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, so seeing no one else on the queue, so we need to go to the vote for this referral amendment. So council, please register your vote. We are voting for the referral amendment, just to remind everyone. All right, so this referral amendment has passed with Councilor Dominado and Councilor Bly in opposition, and Councilor Fry abstain. All right, thanks everyone. Since this is the referral amendment, we're gonna move on to the next item. So that completes motion 1. The next item is motion 2, sailing past gridlock towards sustainable transportation options. And it is moved and introduced by Councilor Bly. Before we begin this item, if anyone believes that they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to declare. Does anyone have a conflict of interest to disclose? All right, seeing none, Councilor Bly, you have 2 minutes to introduce your motion. There we go.
Thanks very much. I'll just add myself so the timing starts.
There we go.
So this motion is called Sailing Past Gridlock Towards Sustainable Transportation Options. I'm very excited to bring this forward as we have an opportunity in our city to make it easier to get around in our region. We live in the most beautiful place in the world. We pride ourselves on clean air and pristine waters and vibrant waterfront communities, but sadly, getting around our region isn't as easy as it should be. Traffic congestion stalks downtown Vancouver and particularly around the Lionsgate Bridge. So part of the problem is we have a real need for more regional transportation options, including for drivers heading to the Sunshine Coast and Bowen Island via Horseshoe Bay. We saw during COVID-19 hybrid work, the rise of hybrid work in the pandemic meant that these smaller communities welcomed many new residents that still work in Vancouver, have their doctor's appointments in Vancouver, visit Vancouver. So there is an interesting opportunity here to work with an unsolicited proposal by Greenline Ferries, who we'll hear from today, to bring an electric passenger ferry service, all electric passenger ferry service connecting downtown Vancouver with Bowen Island and Gibsons. And this could help Vancouverites sail past congestion in the downtown peninsula, reducing vehicle traffic downtown and alleviating congestion, improving air quality, softening sound pollution, and contributing to the city's climate goals. Greenline is projected to be able to move 1,000 passengers a day, avoiding 500 car trips over the Lionsgate Bridge and beyond, and erasing the equivalent emissions of 8 million kilometers of driving every year. And for most users, this will save approximately $20 end to end. And there's an opportunity for us to as a revenue share model. So I know we've got speakers lined up for this. I'll look forward to hearing from them.
Thanks, Councillor. Do we have a seconder for this motion? Seconded by Councillor Dominado. We will now hear from the registered speaker for this motion. The first one is Nathan Davidovich. Nathan here in council chamber. I didn't see Nathan. Okay, we're gonna come back. The second speaker is Callum Campbell, founder CEO of Greenline Ferries. Please go ahead. Yes, please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Great. Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Chair, and thank you for your time today. So my name is Callum Campbell. I'm the founder and CEO of Greenline Ferries, and I'm here to speak in support of this motion. Just under 3 years ago, I left my job with the BC Ministry of Transportation running the inland fleet of ferries, with a single goal to introduce passenger-only ferries into coastal waters of BC. I'm really excited by the technology that is now possible with all-electric ferries. We're seeing this technology in various cities around the world, including Singapore, in Norway, in Sydney. And this is the technology that can help Vancouver and coastal communities connect in a new way. Myself and a small team have been working hard for the past 2.5 years to bring this to reality, putting all the building blocks together. So part of that is scoping the technology, the vessels we need, the shipyard, the designers that bring it together. Partly it's the ridership models. So having a very clear idea through smartphone technology about where people are traveling to with their end-to-end travels. We've also done a ton of outreach to the communities, Bowen Island and Gibsons themselves, with open houses and pop-ups to really make sure that this idea is rooted in what they're looking for. This is an important venture, and we presented 14 letters of support that we've developed through that work, ranging from the Squamish Nation to the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade, various tourism associations, and the communities themselves, Bowen and Gibsons. When I first envisioned this service, we really thought about going to Seabus Terminal. It's a purpose-built facility. It's really intended for this type of service, and that's where previous passenger-only ferry services have gone before. We spent 2.5 years talking to TransLink about accessing that Seabus Terminal, and ultimately, that is not possible. TransLink themselves have a landlord who need and they need permission from that landlord in order for us to access that Seabus terminal. And we all sat together, TransLink and Greenline and the landlord last fall, where we really got to the bottom of this, where there is an unrelated property, a dispute, and until that dispute is resolved, there is no access to the Seabus terminal. Harbour Green is a great facility. It's adjacent to West Cordova. It's close to ride hail, car share. It's a 10-minute walk to Canada Line, and a ferry service to Harbour Green could really bring vitality to that area and really make use of all of that park infrastructure that's gone in there over time. We need to move forward now. We have the funding sources available now to move forward. Finding a Vancouver landing site is really one of the last things we need to pull this venture together. It's been a lot of work, and I think we've demonstrated that work in the letters of support. I'm confident that Harbour Green is not only the right place, it's the only place to advance this venture. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Colin. Before I start the next speakers, I want to state that public speakers should state whether they in support or in opposition of this motion, and may only speak once. I will also ask speakers if they are the residents of Vancouver, if it is not noted on the speakers list. The next speaker is Royce Quinn, President and CEO of Destination Vancouver. Is Royce online?
Hi there, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead, Royce. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Royce Schwinn, CEO, Destination Vancouver and resident of Vancouver. And I would like to support the motion by Councillor Bly for the Greenline Ferry Service and echo Callum's very strong points. I had the privilege yesterday at the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade of delivering a keynote speech on the importance of placemaking. And in order for a city to be successful in placemaking, and that is connecting communities and people, you must have a strong transportation system and transportation options. And the idea of activating the Greenline service in Harbour Green Park is an outstanding idea considering what it does. What's typically good for residents is also great for visitors, and it's an opportunity to take an incredible investment along that particular part of Cold Harbor and activating it even more so for residents and visitors to enjoy. I had a great conversation with Callum to really understand the opportunities and the issues and how it might affect community, the traffic in that particular area, and how it might service visitors and residents. And as a result of that conversation, our letter of support, we stand behind this opportunity to bring Greenline ferry service to Harbour Green Park. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak in support of this.
Okay. Thank you, Royce. The next speaker is Jane Talbot, CEO, Downtown Vancouver BIA. Is Jane on the line?
Hi, I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah, please go ahead, Jane. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to speak today. I am Jane Talbot, President and CEO of Downtown Vancouver BIA, and I am a resident of our city. I'm calling today to express our support for the Greenline Ferry Initiative. So in my role, I've seen firsthand how traffic congestion affects businesses, residents, and visitors. And whether it's delays on key routes like the Lionsgate Bridge or the frustration felt by commuters trying to navigate construction in our downtown core, it's very clear that congestion is an issue that needs continued attention. For that reason, we believe the proposed all-electric passenger ferry connecting downtown Vancouver with Bowen Island and the Sunshine Coast is an exciting opportunity. We view it as a smart, sustainable solution that aligns with the city's Transportation 2040 goals, and by offering an alternative to driving, the service would reduce vehicle congestion, cut emissions, and improve regional connectivity, all critical to our downtown's growth and success. Moreover, with 7 daily arrivals, each carrying passenger volume similar to a city bus, the service has real potential to reduce vehicle congestion downtown, and there's a high likelihood that travelers would continue their journeys on foot or by public transit, supporting a less congested downtown core. And beyond that, very quickly, this ferry would also provide a boost to our downtown economy by improving regional connectivity. We're giving visitors from Bowen Island and the Sunshine Coast easier access to our downtown shops, restaurants, and cultural spaces. Increased foot traffic will directly benefit local businesses, strengthening the vibrancy of our downtown core. This is an opportunity for Vancouver to lead in sustainable urban transportation and to create a more accessible, connected, and vibrant downtown. And as I said when I started, Downtown Van is in full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. The next speaker is Silas White, Mayor of Town of Gibsons. Is Silas on the line?
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, great. This is Silas White, from the town of Gibsons. I'm the mayor here. And I'd like to thank Councillor Bly for putting forward this motion, and also Mayor Sim for coming over and meeting with us last summer to talk about this electric ferry proposal during one of his many visits to Gibsons. And we're hoping to make visits from Vancouver residents smoother and greener with this proposal. Also, thank you to other councillors that we've talked about on this, and occasionally ask how the reopening of Molly's Reach is going, and shared their experiences visiting our community. Our community is clearly an extremely appealing place for Vancouver residents to visit, for people to live as well, and have economic connections with the city of Vancouver. We've got small town charm, excellent selection of restaurants, breweries, cideries, and now a new wine bar that's recently opened, and freshly reopened Molly's Reach. I'm drinking their coffee right now. I think we've got an opportunity here to really build up our local transportation and economic networks at a crucial time to do so, to support local economic development and especially tourism. We've just had numbers from our local Sunshine Coast Tourism organization saying that their website traffic has doubled in the last 2 months from the United States, and with more interest in visiting our area. Clearly all those visitors need to go through Vancouver first. So there's really an opportunity to reduce gridlock here, too. We've all experienced gridlock, Lionsgate Bridge area, and North Shore, and certainly at BC Ferries lineups, which is a pet peeve of locals here. So we also can see a lot of traffic going the other way, as the last speaker just touched on. We really need to build up our local economic ties. We'd love to get our residents to stop shopping on Amazon and really prioritizing shopping locally. And if they can't find items locally, which can be difficult in our small town and the Sunshine Coast, rather than doing some cross-border shopping, doing some cross-house sound shopping, which has been a long-standing tradition. And this will certainly ease that tradition. So again, really appreciative of all the collaboration that's taken place among our communities, including Bowen Island, to support this proposal over the last couple of years. And this Harbor Green location is a great great landing spot to complement the landing spot that we've put forward in Gibson's Landing, and also our progress in collaborating with BC Hydro on the charging infrastructure is going tremendously as well. So let's keep the momentum going.
Thank you. The next speaker is Andrew Leonard, Mayor of Bowen Island Municipality. Is Andrew online?
I am, Chair. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead, Andrew. 3 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chair Zhu, Mayor Sim and Council. It's lovely to be here with you virtually in the room today. I'm speaking to provide my support to the motion before you, as it's the result of collaboration and discussions between a number of jurisdictions and entities. On Bowen, we've been discussing this within our community and our neighbors in Gibson since the very start of the term, since day one of 2022, having hosted community forums on the project, having received delegations to our council, and a number of conversations I've had with residents out in the community and in our grocery store on the ferry itself. And so for Bowen, new transportation connections to the mainland are an existential issue for us. We're 20 minutes from the mainland. The current car-based ferry system for the island is overloaded with no additional capacity or investment in sight from BC Ferries. And the reality is that Bowen, being a commuter island with the highest frequency of ferry service, spews out multiple ferries of traffic onto the upper levels and bridges every day. And it becomes exponentially more congested during the summer as vehicle-based tourism seeks to come to Horseshoe Bay. And during these peak times, the frustrations of our residents and visitors from the mainland are, they're palpable, passionate, and the complaints are numerous as they deal with ferry overloads and traffic congestion. So the community options that provided foot passenger service to and from Bowen Island began to collapse prior to the pandemic, with a major factor being the initial closure of the Harbour Green dock before the pandemic. And then they ended completely as the pandemic made a continuation of those services by community providers infeasible. And so as this project is developed in the motion that's before you, it's emerged that the dock at Harbour Green is the only feasible option for landing in Vancouver. It neighbors the Seaplane and Hullo Ferry terminals, and while Waterfront Station with a direct connection to the SkyTrain would be just frankly awesome, it became clear across many conversations with TransLink over many months that the issues of real estate and tenancy at that site were intractable. And this inability to access the waterfront terminal were underscored both at the political level and at the staff level, leaving the site at Harbour Green the only feasible location, I think, for landing for this project. So Bowen Island, we'd love to continue working with our friends at the City of Vancouver, the Vancouver Parks Board, the Town of Gibsons, and our federal and provincial friends to make this a reality. I think it would be an immense asset for connectivity within our region and the Sunshine Coast, and I'd very much like to count the City of Vancouver as a working partner into the fold of the great work that's already been done on this. So thank you for having me today, and I look forward to the discussion that will surely follow.
Thank you, Andrew. Now we're going to circle back to the first speaker, Nathan Davidovich. Is Nathan on the line or in the chamber? Okay, thank you. So this is the end of the speakers list. Thank you everyone for speaking to the Standing Committee on City Finance and Services. Committee members, is there any discussion? Councillor Montague, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So I sat in on a presentation by Greenline. I was thoroughly impressed. The idea of an electric ferry coming from, excuse me, Gibsons and Bowens into downtown Vancouver, I think is a fantastic idea. My wife works with she has a lot of clients that commute from Bowen Island over to the mainland, and it would be great if they didn't have to bring their cars over. I have a question through you, Chair, to the mover of the motion, I guess. And it was one of the things when I was looking at the presentation, probably one of the things that I don't want to say worried me, but concerned me, was the location of using Harbour Green Park. And I noticed there's an amendment that's been circulated, but I was looking back at the original motion, and so I guess my question is to the mover of the motion is, there's no mention of Harbour Green Park directly in the motion. There's sort of a suggestion by working with the park board. But we've heard Callum and I heard his presentation that Harbor Green Park is sort of where Green Line wants to dock. I'm just wondering, was there a specific reason it was left out of the motion, or?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm happy to respond. It's the dock, right, not the park, but Harbor Green, obviously boats aren't going to land in the park. I know you know, but I think it's really important for the public to understand that there's the Harbor Green dock and then the Harbor Green Park. So Harbor Green dock, as well as the park, are under the jurisdiction of the park board. And so being very clear that we're not making decisions around what happens with that dock, rather recognizing that the collaboration would be required with our engineering staff to work through the initial feasibility with any proposals that come forward, and Green Line Ferries is the proposal that has come forward, that then they would work with Park Board. And as we know, or some may not realize, Park Board passed a motion that fully supported looking at Harbor Green Dock as the landing spot for Green Line Ferries with the same proposal. So it's basically just a clear line of jurisdiction at the end of the day, that while we have staff that work with Park Board staff to help from an engineering perspective, that would be required. The decision of what happens at that dock is under the purview of the Park Board.
Okay, and maybe one more question, Chair, is that, again, in my understanding when I sat in on the presentation, is that Harbor Green isn't the ideal location, that there are other ideal locations, but at this point, Harbor Green is potentially the easiest location or quickest location. Is that my understanding?
Is that through the chair? Okay, so through the chair, I'm happy to respond. So there's 2 points to that. That as the Callum from Green Line Ferries outlined, they have been going through this process with trying to get a spot at the waterfront station for more than 2 years. They do have equity partners that have been funding this project for 2 years. Without a location in Vancouver, we don't want to see the opportunity with that funding going away. Second to that, which I think is even more interesting, is Bowen Island Water Taxi has always landed at Harbor Green Dock up until when that dock was decommissioned in 2019. So we know that this dock is favorable and has been well used by a very small version of what Green Line Ferries can offer. But that was decommissioned because the dock was not sufficient in handling that commercial use. So we're looking at basically taking what is already a demand of folks on Bowen Island and making it far more, from an infrastructure perspective and also a reach perspective in terms of heading to Gibson's as well, a much more robust and dependable ferry service that can last us into decades in the future.
Okay. One more question, maybe through you, Chair, to city staff, if I could.
Yes, you have 23 seconds.
Yeah, I'm not going to have time. Sorry.
You can ask second round if you want.
If I could get a second round, that'd be great.
Second, okay. All in favor say yea. Opposed say nay. Okay, the motion carries. Okay, you're going to come back to Councillor Montague. Okay, Councillor Clausen, please go ahead.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks. This sounds like a great project that would benefit Vancouver as well as people in Bowen Island and the Sunshine Coast. I appreciated Gibson's Mayor Silas White's comments around Molly's Reach. Every time I see him, he said, "You already told me that story," but I keep telling him about my youthful stories of the Sunshine Coast and camping and being a big Beachcombers fan. I have got to give also credit to Mayor White, who I met in Victoria when I was there a few weeks ago, and he and I spoke directly and made an appeal to this one. And so, in the spirit of the conversation we had there, I would like to make sure that we have a realistic and viable opportunity here. And as Mayor Leonard mentioned, there have been some real challenges with the car ferry system, and particularly impacting Bowen Island residents for quite a long period of time over the winter. I have sent an amendment, clerk, and I wouldn't mind if we could put that up, and then I can speak to the amendment.
Okay, yeah, so Councillor Al, let me move you to the amendment queue. Please add yourself there. And we need a seconder for this amendment as well.
Second?
Seconded by Councillor Bly. Hey, Councillor Clausen, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks very much. And again, it's the intent here is to make sure that, and I've heard the discussion in chamber here today and the rationale for zeroing in on Harbor Green Park, which it has been pointed out was not mentioned directly in the motion itself. But I do think having some of the additional heft of the support of City Council and the City of Vancouver will go a longer way to make sure that all options are explored. We know that our transportation system is extraordinarily integrated around a series of hubs. Harbor Green Park is a beautiful place, but it is many steps away. It lacks parking. It lacks a proper drop-off area. But whereas if you got closer to the convention center or to the waterfront station, you're tying into all the transportation infrastructure without forcing other means of travel to get to this ferry. And again, it may be ultimately that the Harbor Green Park opportunity exists. I've heard that there are some challenges with that location, but I still think that I would prefer that we, through an engagement process, really exhaust all options that might be more successful in terms of making sure that this is integrated into our broader transportation system. And as well, I wanted to just point out that I've included I think the importance of recognizing and communicating and engaging with and consulting the three local nations, Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. Again, I think that any project of this matter, especially affecting the waterfront, will be much more successful by making sure that we have their support as well. So with that, I've got the motion and I look forward to hearing what others have to say about it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Bly?
Thanks very much. I just have a question through you to the city manager. I was happy to support this by seconding this amendment in the spirit of collaboration that we've heard from every speaker really today, and that really is the spirit of this coming forward. But to the city manager, recognizing that there has been significant work over 2 years with TransLink Cadillac for Fairview, and also recognizing this is the first opportunity for the City of Vancouver staff to receive direction, to engage. Can you just share with me your interpretation of this amended language, specific to timeline and our ability to respond within the timeline that we understand is of somewhat urgent with the proposal based on funding, et cetera?
Thanks. Through the chair. So yeah, the motion doesn't direct a particular timeline. Obviously, we would acknowledge, and not having received a formal proposal at this stage, we would have to take that into account. And presumably the engagement with the parties that are listed here would be constrained within whatever that timeline is. So we would work to get back to council within a timeline that's relevant, but appreciating that if that's short, it will just limit how much work can be done in the interim period of time.
Okay, yeah, good. So, I mean, I'm happy with supporting this. I think that Green Line, should they choose to, can submit a proposal that makes sure that they can meet the demands of their equity partners, not demands, but at this point, 2 years down the road, this might feel a bit discouraging to start over. I don't think that's what this is. What I see is just bringing everyone along in this journey in a timely way, and that staff can then update back to council what that looks like. And so I think it's really going to be on Green Line Ferries to expedite their next steps should this amendment pass, which I would imagine it would. I also just want to point out that the engagement with Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh is incredibly important. I was very encouraged to hear Green Line Ferries has been working with Squamish Nations for the whole time and has a rights and title agreement signed. so critical piece that I don't know was fully touched on, and has also a verbal agreement with Musqueam and Tsleil-Waututh. Notwithstanding, it's important that our staff consult directly, and so I see that as something I can also very much support here. And yeah, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, we do have our transportation plan from a metro perspective, so linking that into how this works in a broader regional context beyond the Bowen Island Sunshine Coast, but also heading the other direction in our region, I think is important, as well as making sure that any change of use does not preclude the very few, but still some possible recreational uses, and that's also something that Greenline Ferries has already taken into account as well, in terms of allowing recreational use, drop-off, pickup sort of thing. The only thing I will say, I don't think it's a barrier to success that there isn't a lot of parking in this area, which I did hear Councillor Klassen mention. I mean, I think that sometimes parking is a consideration, but in this, parking is not the goal. The goal is active transportation, multimodal transportation in terms of perhaps some pickup and drop off, but parking I don't think is something we need to be as concerned with, perhaps passenger zone pickup, which I believe this area already has. So with that, I'll leave it there. But, you know, again, in the spirit of collaboration, I think it's much more important that we work together when an opportunity like this comes forward. And so I was happy to second the amendment and happy to support it to move it forward.
Thanks, Councillor Bly. Councillor Carbiel.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I love the idea of an electric passenger ferry. I think it's sustainable transportation, and we do need more options here. I was concerned with how the motion was crafted and put together because I didn't see consideration for the impact on public amenities. And so wearing my City of Vancouver Council hat and having sat on the Vancouver Park Board previously, the Harbour Green dock had to be kind of shut off from the public for over 4 years because it was damaged by larger boats than it was designed to accommodate. And I think that that's a really important consideration. And at the time, it was projected it was going to be a minimum of $2 million to sort of retrofit it to other types of uses. The Bowen Island water taxi that was mentioned previously used it, quite honestly, without permission. And so the public lost access to that for a long period of time. And the City of Vancouver holds the bank account, for so to speak, on maintaining that critical and important public infrastructure and amenities. I'm sure that staff will have a conversation in an agreement about what that looks like. But what we're being asked to do, essentially, if I understand it correctly, is not a proposal to build a new dock alongside. That would be interesting. Welcome that, but is to use our existing public dock that a bunch of money was put back into bringing online. And we have, as has been mentioned, a community infrastructure gap and a $500 million annual deficit in community infrastructure. So all to say, I'm super supportive of it. But when you look at what it takes in terms of repairing these things, you have to also in that evaluation, look at what is the trade-off between public access and other folks like water taxis, et cetera, that have also wanted to use the dock. So I think there's some considerations there. It wasn't feasible to actually, they were going to remove the dock, take it away for repair. They had to keep it there, put in a concrete float and a gangway that was supported by piles. It is in a sheltered area, but that constant sort of usage and buffering of the dock was a very significant piece there. So that this was always sort of designed, because it's in the heart of a residential area, to be a bit of a pleasure use. I would love to see, for example, a conversation with the Vancouver Convention Centre about their water lot rights. Council's recently got a proposal for a floating hotel there. It's very innovative. That's a really unique use. That makes a lot more sense to me, potentially, without tangling the quagmire of trying to tie into the C-bus land. To look at docking there, because then you can kind of go right up on the public spaces there. The float planes are adjacent and go in there. Convention delegates can go in back and forth and in and out. But I think there's sort of a bit of a broader perspective than just like, oh, there's a dock here, let's land it. I understand if you're the service proponent, that you're just trying to get this service landed, and I want to see it coming into Vancouver, but I also want us to protect our public infrastructure, and there is a cost to that infrastructure to do that. So hopefully, staff are listening to these conversations and could explore other options, like the convention center. I think that would be a really interesting one, and makes a lot of sense. There's a sort of public plazas and gathering spaces there, and you're closer to connect into walking up if you're visiting downtown or grabbing an Uber or a bus or closer to the C bus terminal as opposed to being sort of dumped out in the middle of the residential neighborhood. But I do worry. We've seen continued impact on our docks and that infrastructure, and that one took a long time to come back on side. And as a park board commissioner, we heard a lot about it being out of commission and how that was utilized. So that's the important piece in this amendment to me, is taking into account the existing recreational uses, because that was the original intention for this facility. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor. Mayor Sim, please go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much. I'll keep my comments brief. By the way, welcome to Vancouver, Mayor Henderson. It's good seeing you again. And Callum, thank you for coming in. So like I said, I'll keep my comments brief. Super exciting project. It seems like we've been talking about this for years. Callum, you do have a raving fan base. Staff has been, or it's not staff, Stafford has been bringing this up for years now, every time we come to Smitty's. And I know Mayor White as well. It was really great sitting down with him last year, going through the plan. And I'll, reiterate what I said to Mayor White and staff back then. We enthusiastically support this. This is a complete no-brainer. For purely self-serving reasons, this is great for Vancouver. But we also know it's good for Gibsons and the Sunshine Coast. And if we look at, our region holistically, what's good for Gibsons and the Sunshine Coast is good for Vancouver. It's good for tourism. It's good for hotels and restaurants on both sides. It's amazing. Yeah, and from a purely personal perspective, it's going to be nice being able to go to Smitty's and Lanita's and smoke on the water directly. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So one thing I would bring up, or I want to bring up as well, is I like the amended language to this, and having run a retail business before, in food services. Location actually matters a big deal. You could be off literally 10 meters, and that could double your sales or decrease your sales by 50%. And you know what I'm talking about. So I actually think it's great that we're exploring other areas because, just looking at from a very simplistic perspective, if you're closer to transit, that means you're closer to more people. It opens things up and it sets everything up for a greater probability of success. So needless to say, super excited that after a few years of being exposed to this project, to see it, making its way through the system.
Thanks, Mayor. Councillor Fry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I guess first off, I just appreciate the intention of the original motion, and I think this is a really excellent opportunity to enhance our sort of green infrastructure and really moving people in a very viable way. I just had a house guest who came over on the Hello Ferry and was just raving about what a great experience it was, and the ability to drive from Tassis to Nanaimo, leave their car, come over on the cheap. It was a seamless and excellent experience for them. So I appreciate this initiative in general. I have a little bit of confusion around this amendment, though. I feel like it adds a lot more specificity to this motion that wasn't really contemplated in the original, which I liked because I understand that there has been a lot of work that's already gone into this. So I guess if I could, Chair, my first question is to the mover of the amendment. And I just note that this amendment quite explicitly cuts Park Board out of the consultation matrix. I'm wondering if that's an intention that Park Board is not included in this consultation, and by extension, is the intention to preclude the Harbor Green Dock or Cole Harbor Public Dock, however we want to frame it.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Bly.
Chair, it's to the mover of the amendment. Sorry.
Oh, the amendment. Okay, so Councillor Klaassen. Yeah, so Councillor Fry has a question for you.
Yeah, no, I think I heard it. Councillor Fry, this is, again, as I stated earlier, is really looking at a full suite of options that would include the the ability and the potential to really tie into our larger transportation network. But there is an understanding that, and I know that Councillor Bly has just reached out to me about adding some language about as well, including a look at Harbor Green Park. But again, we'll leave it to our team here at the city to work with third parties and trying to, and as Councillor
Okay,
Young,
so
sorry,
I guess so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to the specific though. So the omission of Park Board is explicit in that Park Board would not be engaged in this, and by extension, it would kind of remove Harbor Green Dock from the conversation. You've struck Park Board with your amendment, so I'm just looking for the clarity around why.
I think that this is, again, a city-led initiative, and that's why we would, in the Park Board as part of the City of Vancouver.
Okay, maybe through you, Chair, to the City Manager. I'm just trying to get some clarity here because I'm looking on the website how we describe variously Harbor Green docks and Cole Harbor dock, and it all seems to flow into Park Board. So it seems to me that this is kind of the jurisdiction and purview of the elected Park Board at this point. Am I missing something? And specifically with reference to this dock that's been contemplated.
Thanks through the chair. So yeah, certainly right now Park Board does have jurisdiction over the dock and the landing in the park. That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, and sorry, City Manager, since you're there, if I may as well, under our UNDRIP, aren't we kind of? I mean, we recently signed the UNDRIP protocol and stuff. Aren't we, really obliged to consult with the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh on any kind of proposal of this nature?
Through the chair, so our typical practice would be to refer the proposal to the nations to determine whether they are interested in engaging with us on that, and we would follow that in this case. Of course, it's council's prerogative to specify that as a necessary action for staff as well in any motion.
Okay, thank you, City Manager. I'm not prepared to support this amendment. I'm very supportive of the idea, and I think that the Harbor Green dock, my understanding, the opportunity to upgrade the dock without using our money, but rather through a potential partnership and electrifying the dock and all these opportunities, I think is a great opportunity to explore. I like the original motion that it is ambiguous and general enough that we are opening the conversation to other stakeholders. I feel this narrows down the options considerably, and it's kind of frivolous actually and unnecessary. So I don't support the amendment. I support the motion though.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Fry. Councillor Bly.
Thanks, Chair. I have an amendment to the amendment.
Okay, so let me move you to the amendment Q2. Please add yourself there. Oh, we need seconder for this amendment to amendment. Second by Councillor Meisner. So please go ahead, Councillor Bly.
Thanks very much. I'll be brief. But I'm just hearing Councillor Fry and then just conferring here with my colleague, Councillor Klassen, as we are providing enough direction to staff, let's put in a letter C in the further that where we're taking into consideration the Metro Vancouver's transportation system, we're taking into consideration Cole Harbor Public Dock. Let's take into consideration the potential use of Harbor Green Dock in consultation with Park Board, and then it's...
Put this amendment to amendment on the screen, please.
It's... Yeah, thank you. So it's just making sure that it's very clear direction and inclusive of what may be required, depending on the proposal coming forward. And I'll just say, and I know we're all very, very busy, but Councillor Montague and Councillor Dominato had a chance to get a direct briefing from Green Line. So I think a lot of these questions were answered in that briefing, and I'm sure that would be available to anyone who was interested directly with Green Line so that they could better understand, particularly around the infrastructure costs of upgrading Harbor Green Dock. That would not be borne by the city. It would not be borne by the Park Board. It would be part of the proposal coming forward. And what it is a charge barge. It's very exciting. It does direct charging, and we know that there are more personal recreational watercrafts that are also becoming electric. So imagine that as an infrastructure upgrade for those that have personal electrified pleasure crafts, it's just a really great opportunity. So all that to say, hopefully this will be supported. It's just a way to keep us moving forward. I'll leave it there.
All right, thanks. Councillor Carbiel, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciating the conversation. I think a lot of these questions are being asked because I'm particularly interested in sort of the last comments that the dock would be upgraded, it'd be part of the proposal, wouldn't be a cost necessarily to the city or the taxpayers. I can only go on the information that's in the motion, and none of that information is here. And that's what we have to vote on. So it is our job to bring up the questions around the use of public infrastructure, et cetera, because I can't presuppose what may or may not be in a proposal that I haven't been privy to or seen. And so and the resolution is really the important piece because that's the direction that council is giving on the public record. I do have a point of information through you, Chair, if I might, to the city manager. And I'm just looking for clarity. While we currently have a park board, if the park board has, just trying to clarify the City of Vancouver's role in this hypothetical construct relative to the park board. So if the park board has already passed a motion, what is the city's role here, and or does the city have a role to play while we certainly have a park board? Because if the park board's passed a motion, yes, we want to explore the use of the dock, and the dock was references under their jurisdiction. Can I just get some clarity around roles while we have the two different bodies?
So thanks to the chair. So certainly in terms of the transportation system, that is a role that our engineering team plays and has connections with TransLink and so on. So I think in terms of assessing the transportation implications of any proposal, that would be the appropriate team to be doing that work. With respect to the jurisdiction around Harbour Green Park and the dock, that's an issue that I think I would want to make sure that we take the time to fully look at and canvass with the law department to ensure that we really understand what the jurisdiction is. As council knows, there is some complexity and overlapping jurisdiction around. So assuming there is still a park board, that's a piece that we would want to nail down 100% as well.
Right, and I guess just in terms of timeliness, if there were not a park board, because I mean, we could spend, follow-up question if I might, Chair, through you, being pragmatic about it, a couple of months exploring the legalities, the feasibility, right? Who does what sort of scenario, or that might look different in a period of time if the park board is no longer, right? Then it would be, then we would have a different level, a different approach to this because we wouldn't have that additional level of complexity and engagement.
Certainly if city council had full governance of parks, parkland, and operation of parks, yes, that would remove that kind of jurisdictional complexity. We will, again, subject to other direction from council, based on this motion, we would proceed with that jurisdictional work to make sure that, again, there's clarity for both park board and council around where the jurisdictional lines are and any questions that may need further direction on. So we would, again, subject to direction, we'll keep going with that work, but if at some point in time the province does move forward with legislation to dissolve the park board, that work would no longer be relevant.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yep, thanks. Councillor Fry?
Yeah, just quickly to, in support of this amendment to the amendment, it does give me, I think, a little bit more confidence. While I think it's still more prescriptive than the original motion insofar as it is adding many more layers of complexity and moving away from what was originally contemplated. I think the inclusion of the park board does give me some comfort. I think it would be, to the earlier point, given that we still have a park board and we continue to have a park board, and I don't see the province in any rush to amend the Vancouver Charter and remove the elected park board, it would be a shame to hold up the opportunity to work on this particular project and opportunity based on that. So I appreciate the inclusion of the park board in this amendment, and I will support the amendment as amended. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. So this is the end of the speakers list. So let's go to the vote. This is for the amendment to the amendment. So Council, please register your vote. Amendment to amendment. Okay. All right. So this amendment to amendment passed unanimously. All right. I'm gonna go back to the amendment Q1. Councillor Bly.
Nope, that's all for me.
Thank you. Councillor Carbiel.
No, I'm fine now. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Clausen.
Yeah, all I was going to just reference in the conversation that happened with earlier city manager is that we are in a process of transitioning with the park board. So that is part of the reason for my amendment, but happy to support the amended amendment. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Bly again.
Thanks very much. I just have a minute here, so I'll just quickly close to say appreciate the discussion, the robust discussion. Appreciate with a transformational opportunity like this comes complexities to get there, and so just to acknowledge the vision of Greenline Ferries to bring this to Vancouver. Very rarely are we the last sort of cog in the wheel, if you will, to get things going. It was really impressive to me that Mayor Andrew Leonard and Mayor Silas White were already fully on board, as were their councils. Solutions were already figured out about what location, where they would go in their specific jurisdictions, and it really was an opportunity for Vancouver to step in to this and be part of this transformational vision from a sustainable transportational regional perspective. It's a win-win-win. We heard from Destination Van, we heard from Downtown Van. These are key stakeholders and partners about economic development, tourism, and moving people throughout our city in a way that just has everybody smiling. So this is great. I really, really appreciate all the work, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to partner with you on this, and we'll see where it goes.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, so let's go on to the vote. So we are voting for the amended amendment. So Council, please register your vote. All right, so the amended amendment has passed unanimously. Okay, let's go back to the main queue. Councillor Clausen.
No, that's okay. I'm
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Carbiel. Good. Okay, thank you. Councillor Montague.
No, all my additional questions have been discussed and answered. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you. So again, let's go to the vote. We are voting for the amended motion. Okay. Also, please register your vote. All right, so the motion as amended also passed unanimously. Okay. All right, thanks everyone. That completes motion 2 on the agenda. So do we want to take a 1 minute recess or? Okay, because we need the mayor for the second part. Okay. Let's just take 2 minutes recess. Yeah, we're gonna be back at 11:05. go back to the council business.
Okay, everyone, we're just going to wrap this up here. We're now
Mayor,
going
I have to read the script, Mayor. I have to read script here first.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
All right, everyone. So the standing committee portion of this meeting is now complete. We will now convene in council with Mayor Singh as the chair to deal with the recommendations and the actions from today's committee meeting. Mayor Singh, over to you.
Thank you very much. We will now convene in council to deal with recommendations and actions from today's Standing Committee on City Finance and Services meeting and one bylaw. Clerk, can we please have a roll call?
Yes, Mayor Simon, the chair, Councillor Kirby Young. Councillor Dominato was here. Councillor Bly. Councillor Fry. Guess he's not back online. Councillor Claassen. Councillor Montague.
Present.
Councillor Meisner. Councillor Zhou.
Present.
The meeting has quorum.
Great, thank you. We need a motion to adopt the committee's recommendations for reports 1 through 5 and members motion 1 and 2. Great, Councillor Bly, seconded by Councillor Montague. All those in favor say yay.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Bylaws. We have one bylaw on the agenda for enactment. Does any member wish to declare a conflict of interest on this bylaw? Oh, okay, would someone like to move the motion to adopt bylaw 1? Councillor Claassen, thank you. Councillor Montague, seconded. Council, is there any discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. The approved bylaw can be found on the city's website. Council, are there any items of urgent business, such as leaves of absence? And for whatever reason, no, seeing no one, no one's in the queue. Great. Can we please have a motion to adjourn? Great. Councillor Kirby Young, seconded by Councillor Montague. Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yay.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Great. This meeting is adjourned.
Thanks.